Now that we've written our introduction paragraph, we're going to go ahead and start a body paragraph. I'm going to give you an example of what a body paragraph can look like. And I'm going to use the group Native Americans, since that is one that we all did. So you need to start with a topic sentence where you introduce the topic, and you also need to introduce whether or not that group had equal rights and what type of rights. So the topic, the group is Native Americans. So Native Americans in the U.S. did not have equal political and economic rights. Now, you will notice that the two types of rights I have are political and economic. What that means is that in each of your evidence boxes, you need to use an example of one that's political and one that's economic. So I'm going to make a note in each one just to remind myself which piece of evidence I'll be talking about. So I'm going to start with political. Now, you might be wondering, where do you find your evidence from? This is where you use your documents. So I'm going to go back to my document set. I'm going to use document 2 from the Native American set, which is from the Supreme Court. And I'm going to scroll down, and I highlighted a piece of evidence for me that shows political rights. So I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste that into this box. However, a quote by itself is not good enough. You need to, number one, make sure it's in quotes, quotation marks. And number two, you need to make sure that you introduce the quote. That is where these sentence starters over here come in. You're going to pick a sentence starter. For this one, I'm going to pick the first one, where it says the author states. Instead of saying the author, I'm going to use the name of the author, which is the Supreme Court of the United States. The Supreme Court of the U.S. Now, this is about the length you want to use for a quote. You don't want to use a quote that's too long, because really you want to spend most of your time explaining and analyzing the quote. Then, once you've done that, you're going to explain what that quote means. Okay, so you can do that below, or you can do it in the box over here. I'm going to do it below. Just say this means that Native Americans, I should say natives, were not considered citizens of the U.S. Then you go on to make your argument. Why does that matter? Why does that show that Native Americans did not have equal political rights? So this proves natives did not have equality in their political rights because they did not have the ability to become citizens. Now, if you remember when we talked about political rights, one of the biggest examples was being able to be a citizen of the United States or a citizen of any country. That is a political right. Okay. We want to go a little bit deeper. Okay. They could not take a case to court or vote or do anything else that citizens could. Okay, good. And we take that right from our evidence. It's right here. Beautiful. All right, next. We want to go a little bit more and talk about reliability. This is the second part of analysis. You're either going to talk about reliability or you're going to corroborate, which is where you compare sources. For this one, we can say it is or is not reliable. I'm going to say is reliable because it is from the Supreme Court. Make sure you're capitalizing things like Supreme Court, state names, group names, people names. Okay, which means it is the official There's a group who makes the official decisions on laws for the U.S. The court decided natives did not have equal rights. Okay, good. So remember, the argument you're always making goes back to your thesis. Does this group have equal rights and how? You need to use specific examples. Now, I'm not going to show you how to do the second piece of evidence. Same exact process, just find another document with another piece of evidence. You do need to conclude each body paragraph. Basically, you just need to restate your argument from this paragraph and wrap up. But you want to word it a little bit differently. Okay. Native Americans clearly did not have the same political and economic rights as others in the U.S. in the 1800s. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is your second piece of evidence. You need to make sure it's a different type of right from the first one, like economic. We did political in the first one. Now go make sure you do economic or social for your second one.